Mark Rogers TV talking Big Ten Media Days. Our first stop with 2013 champion Michigan State. And, of course, the great strides that Mark Dantonio has taken with this program since his first season back in 2007. He mentioned off the top the consecutive top 5 finishes, the 2 Big Ten championships, the major bowl appearances, including 4 consecutive postseason victories, but says, look at last season. Despite all the huge wins, despite the thrilling Cotton Bowl comeback over Baylor 42-41, trailing by 20 in the fourth quarter, we did not meet our expectations or our goals. That's, of course, to win the Big Ten championship. Other talking points started with Connor Cook, quarterback, coming off 2 tremendous seasons, Rose Bowl MVP, Big Ten championship game MVP in 2013, 22-6 touchdown to pick ratio in 13, 24-8 last season. Of course, threw some costly interceptions in the Oregon game and also against Baylor, but recovered from adversity. As we've discussed here on Mark Rogers TV, we're very impressed with the way he's able to come off the deck and throw big touchdown passes, big completions on third down in big situations in huge games. Connor Cook for Michigan State. The offensive line, you can tell Mark Dantonio is thrilled to have this offensive line. He says it's the best he has seen at Michigan State. It is talented. It's deep. They will continue to play 8 players. He knows his starting 5, but 8 will see consistent action led by, of course, a number of players. And he mentioned in particular Jack Conklin, who shunned the NFL, the former walk-on back at Michigan State in 2015. Of course, defensively, no Pat Narduzzi to coordinate the defense. Mike Tressel and Harlan Barnett will need to show some growth. So Dantonio talked about the growth needed, the development needed out of any football coach who goes from position coach to coordinator or coordinator to head coach, and that includes Tressel and Barnett this fall for Michigan State. But he says most importantly, the players respect them. They have 12 collective years there in East Lansing. There was a lot of talk about the Ohio State rivalry. This burgeoning rivalry, of course, culminated with a Big Ten championship game in which the Buckeyes came back from 17 down to take the lead, and then Michigan State countered with 17 consecutive of their own to win it by 10 and march on to the Rose Bowl. Ohio State won the big game in East Lansing last year, and the Buckeyes, of course, march on to the Big Ten and national championships. Mark Dantonio is a native Ohioan. He has 27 current players from Ohio on the Michigan State roster. He respects the Ohio State tradition and the current program under Urban Meyer. Of course, he coached the defense back in 2002 when the Buckeyes went 14-0 and beat Miami in the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship. So he says it's great. It's great for the Big Ten that Ohio State's this good. We have to knock them off. He also talked about the defensive line. So he emphasized that it's trench warfare that wins championships. Offensive line, defensive line. The offensive line is much more of a proven than the defensive line, but he believes that this defensive line, after 14 or 15 games played in 2015, will prove to be one of the better ones that he has seen in his stays at Ohio State and now 8 years at Michigan State. The starters are back. They have depth. We all know about Shilique Calhoun, one of the best in the business, 12.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks last fall. He also wanted to mention Lawrence Thomas, who had 4.5 sacks, 3 sacks, 4.5 tackles for loss. Joel Heath coming into his 3rd year as a starter with Sparty with 5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks. But you could tell that Dantonio very excited about Malik McDowell. Malik McDowell could prove to be a star. He is mammoth in the middle at 6'6", 310. Last season, 1.5 sacks. He pushed the pile for 4.5 tackles for loss. It all finished off for the coach by saying, "Go green." Michigan State and Mark Dantonio primed for a big 2015, and of course, that stellar matchup in the home-and-home series with Oregon in Week 2. Would love to hear what you have to say about Michigan State football. Let's talk it up right here on Mark Rogers TV.